So there was this one girl that I was talking to yesterday. I know you're probably watching this video, so yeah. I know you're watching, so remember that I will refer to you both in third person form, like I will be talking about you, and as if I'm gonna be talking to you. So please don't mind that. But after you're talking with me, and after a little bit of reflection together, what I'm beginning to realize, yo, is that after the past moments that I've before, like rejections, leaving this type of person and seeing what I've done and what others have done to me before, I'm beginning to see a big shift in my perception of people. What I mean by that, yo, is that we'll create this pretty much simply. So we'll start with our first section. Remember that I'll be reading off of the scripture, so please don't mind me. There was this one girl that I was talking to before. I used to sit with her in the library. We'll call her Jane Doe. And she never really reciprocated back. So back then, obviously, I had to leave to save time and find people who were actively reciprocating. I didn't really get it because why didn't she talk? Like, we had a great history together. Like, it was mostly neutral to positive. We got to talk together. We got to have a few moments together. Maybe even laugh a little bit. But as time went on, like, she became more increasingly distant and silent. Like, what I mean by this, y'all, is that after leaving her, I just kept asking myself, like, why did she never talk? She never rejected me, nor did she never truly accept me either. She never said essentially a single thing, like not a word. Well, I even asked her online, like, what was going on? Is there anything going on? She didn't even respond at all. And obviously, I had to leave then, all right, to find my own reciprocation, which I'm still looking for today. And I was confused is that we had great history, like we had a great places of interaction, but we never really answered why. So we'll keep on going. Next one. I talked to another girl online. All right, we'll call you named Jane Doe II. And her story changed, like, not the entire symbolic storyline of mine, but a major part of it by perception. Because I have a bunch of new information now that I would definitely love to share. And changes how I'm beginning to see people now. And remember that I will not share her entire story to you guys because it is very, very personal. Basically, up until this point, y'all, alright, I used pure logic. Like 1 plus 1 equals 2. If a girl that I'm talking to, or boy I'm talking to, is going down with something, like if they're going through a struggle, like they don't want to be with me, then therefore they should say, like, therefore, quote unquote, I'm going through a struggle. Like my family's going through a bunch of problems right now. I just want to be left alone, quote unquote. So please and thank you, quote unquote. So like simple logic. Like you don't want people to know you want to stay alone. And while perfectly valid and healthy relationships, like you need these types of boundaries, like in relationships that genuinely work. When it comes to complex situations, when it comes to situations that have been essentially toxic but have been sustained for a long time, sometimes logic like that doesn't work. Intrinsically, girl logic doesn't always work like that. Right? Not because girls and boys are logical, right? But because of how society made it unsafe for them to answer. For example, trauma, pressure, silence, or societal conditioning. Like girls and boys, they are not inherently illogical. Like we are not inherently illogical as like humans. Like people without like society and the rest of people. Like we're not illogical. Like we are still people who have genuine hearts and are willing to be people. But the way I'm beginning to see this now is that Jane Doe told me that she had been through a lot of pressure. Dealing with a bunch of persistent boys was the last thing that she needed. So I can't reveal this whole story, but I'll tell a little bit of a story about it. So there was this guy named Tyler. She said no to him multiple times. But the issue is there's a counter perspective because other girls in her former place told her that you shouldn't say no, that you should just ignore him. But the issue is, y'all, is that the boy mistook this and misread her nose as a simple playing of hard to get. Like the boy interpreted it as playing hard to get, even though like she was actually saying no. Like she said no multiple times. She was trying to set her boundaries. Like she was in fact following my logic. Like if you're going through something, say. Like she was doing that, but the boys weren't willing to accept it. They misinterpreted it in the most toxic way possible. And we by ourselves, I will connect this to a systemic failure of society later. Is that this, on top of personal responsibilities and personal problems, on top of this, that creates a lot of stuff. If I was going through something like that, if I was a girl, bro, I'll be honest, y'all, I guess I'd be the same too. Sometimes I'd actually struggle to say no if I was that. On top of those personal problems, and who's to blame, y'all? Society. For me, y'all, I'm gonna blame society on this one, to be honest. The worst part that I'm saying about this story is that her environment told her not to say no, because it quote unquote makes boys push harder. The issue with that, y'all, is that when it's stuff like this, when society teaches girls to not say no to a boy who's pushing, but then again, society again is saying that the boy should continue pushing harder. That's reckless behavior. That is something that's dangerous. That is a toxic societal norm, survival mechanism. It's a dangerous culture because when girls out there are taught not to say no, just to ignore annoying boys, but then boys are taught the exact opposite, like take no as hard to get, take no as something that is unfit to get into a relationship with them, for example. This creates toxicity. This is toxic because this creates two completely different and distorted ways of understanding. What I mean by this, y'all, is that her story is personal. A little heart for you out there if you're watching this right now. Um, I can't reveal all of it, so that's what I'm being given right there. So that's now when I'm putting it back to my own story. That's when it hit me. Like, what if the library girl was struggling too? Of course, then I had to leave because I wanted to find out the reciprocation. But like after that reflection, like after talking with her, like I began to realize that what if she was being silent because of the way she was conditioned? Like, what if boys or girls told her not to say no, just to ignore, or ignore me? What I'm beginning to realize was that even though it was logical for me to leave her back then, I should have had a little bit more empathy. I should have had a little bit more hindsight. And to be fair, I'm a little bit guilty for not asking more, asking twice about if she was really going through something. So I kind of regret that. I'll be really, really honest with you. And what I'm beginning to see here is that It's a gender miscommunication problem, especially when it's mixed in a teenage environment. Boys misread boundaries as flirting, and girls get punished for setting boundaries at all. Society's failure because when boys are taught completely recklessness behaviors and girls are taught not to say no, this creates harmful patterns because this is something that's enabling. It enables a type of stereotypical harm. It enables something that no person should absolutely repeat at all at any time. It's a completely toxic dynamic because girls are taught opposing viewpoints, boys are taught just completely reckless viewpoints. Not all girls, not all boys are the same. I'm blaming this completely on society, on the institutions, on the parents, on the people that enable this type of harm. I blame society for forcing them into silence, forcing boys into the wrong types of habits. And this confirms back to my enlightenment viewpoint that I've made like thousands of times before, is that Jean-Jacques Rousseau, I probably butchered that name, he's a French philosopher, Jean-Luc, all of them state that people in a state of nature are genuine and goodwill. When we apply this into real life, is that when we apply it into her situation, they're corrupted. Their state of nature has been corrupted. What I mean by that, y'all, is that the Enlightenment period back then proves itself right. Again, no boy or girl is inherently toxic, but rather it's the society, it's the institutions, well, toxic school cultures that go on that enable this type of harm. I know there's a ton of more factors here, but that's the ones I can name on the top of my head. And what I'm beginning to realize, y'all, is that people are not born toxic. Institutions, school culture, and whatever, well, parents too may be for enabling that type of harm, but again, it really depends. It's what makes them that way. Society, politics corrupts this state of nature, and this is what I'm beginning to finally realize, is that it was not the girl's fault for pushing her own boundaries. It was not my own fault for trying to find what I want to find. We had hearts, we are people, and we still have it today. We tried our best, but society acted as an obstacle in our direction. Part of her struggle was loaded with boys who were toxic, right? She already had responsibilities, but the thing is, the boys were also toxic too. Her struggle was basically her own story. She had a lot of responsibilities. Even still today, she may still have them, and couple that with a bunch of toxic boys who couldn't understand boundaries. Mine here was essentially toxic culture, right? People who are stuck onto their phones, friend groups who have their own good types of friends locked in by conformity, by social chains. Like social chains in the terms that you can't do this, you can't do that, you should never interact with X person, or that they're bad, you should believe what they're doing. Like these types of social chains are arbitrary. The boys who are persistent, again, also work on arbitrary means. These are not legit ways of finding true friends. At least that boy's way, he's not gonna make it into a relationship. I'm gonna be really honest, unless he changes himself. What I mean by that, y'all, is that we are both victims of systemic forces. Society pushes out these types of harmful cultures. In my way, society pushes out phone addiction. Society pushes out social chain, high school, and both of these never came naturally generated by people. It was by society, by institutions, and by 1,000 other factors. What I mean by that is that none of this came from who we really are. It came from broken institutions. It was not our fault. School culture failed to teach these. Societal norms failed to teach proper boundaries. That's essentially what it is right here. School culture, family dynamics that are toxic, societal norms. And what I mean by this, y'all, is that this is a really big mirror back to my own experiences. The homeless man, y'all. The homeless man told me like a few days ago. He had girls in his relationship that he didn't even know he was treating wrong. It was because of so many factors, but he treated his girls completely wrong. But he couldn't even see it himself because of the way he was socially conditioned. He couldn't even see 2 feet in front of him. Even my mom too. My mom is pretty much a complex character. She's neither good or bad. The way she treats me, they were shaped by their upbringing. They were shaped by the social conditioning. The homeless man, he was a good person in the state of nature. My mom's a good person in the state of nature. But when we have this environmental influence, when we have toxic societal culture, when we have pain from upbringing, that's what corrupts people. That's what completely destroys a lot of this. The thing is, y'all, this is beginning to rewrite everything that I'm beginning to finally see about people. Is that the girls, maybe that same trinary group who rejected me, maybe they were never toxic in the first place. Maybe they were never arbitrary. Maybe they were struggling. Maybe they never were toxic at all. Maybe they didn't want to deal with the responsibilities of having a quote-unquote boy as a friend in their group. Again, for another reason, they might have still been arbitrary. I don't know. But that could have been a reason. Or maybe the person that I talked to at a few days ago during the lunch period that I was at, maybe she and her friend both blocked me because of maybe their own social chains. Not because I was bad because of me, but because of their own chains, because of their own beliefs now. And I really should have had more empathy toward these people. So again, y'all, my thinking could still be wrong. They may have still rejected me out of like arbitrary means. It still remains an option. It really could have been the reasons I've been talking about. The isolated girl, same thing. The girls who blocked me, also the same thing. The thing is, y'all, is that with this new self-identity shift, is that I am meant to outgrow all of these people. Life gave me these challenges because they are the antithesis of the people who I should not be. Alright? Not because I am better, but because I can see what they cannot. The online friend can see what I cannot, and vice versa. Like, big credits to you, online friend. Jane Doe II, you told me to wait for my role. But I think I know it now. I am a leader, essentially. Not a leader in a way that I'm a leader of a friend group, but a leader by personality, a leader by heart. Was that in my experience overall is that no one person is to blame. My mom is neither a fully bad or good person because she was shaped by her own upbringing back in the Philippines. That homeless man, he was shaped by his own upbringing back in where he was raised. And even then, the boys out there who treated my online friend wrong, maybe they too are also victims of these same chains, but they're the ones who are repeating these toxic norms to other people. They're not bad by nature, but it's what society that corrupted these people, so it makes them difficult to change. Also. Alright, no one person is to blame. Society created these broken behaviors and brought them down to the next generation. Jean Locke was right. Rousseau was correct. it's the institutions, the school culture, the societal culture, on top of the fear, on top of the social chains that corrupt people. This is a systemic problem, not something that's personal, not something that's unique because someone is an Einstein genius. It's because of failure by society. And the Enlightenment again proved this correct. People are not corrupted intrinsically, they are corrupted by media, by society. And I can finally understand this now. My goal after this is that I want to help others before it's too late and save them, save their hearts too. And I really hope I can do that. It is not my fault that I'm trying to find new friends and that I'm still struggling to do so. Truth is, y'all, society enabled people getting distracted on their phones all the time. Society enabled arbitrary friend groups to exist. Remember that not all arbitrary friend groups exist. Society enabled people who are afraid. It enabled fears, old cultural fears. Society enabled cultural chains and social fears of interacting with new people and going out to a bunch of random people. Society enabled these types of dangerous things, and what I'm beginning to finally see now is that this was none of my fault. I may still struggle to find friend groups in person, but eventually I will. But for my online friend, it was never her fault either that she tried her best to do what she needed to do. It was not her fault. It was society's failure to do the right thing. It was society's failure in that she wasn't able to get what she wanted back then. She wasn't able to get her peace. Hope she doesn't have peace now if you're watching. But what I'm beginning to realize is that this is a systemic failure, and it proves my Enlightenment hypothesis right. It also proves that society is far more complex than we think. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. These social chains, these fears, they were never given by the person. They were inherited, but we don't need to own them.